to the Power Zone Sports Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about
the XFL is back.
Please like and subscribe, and I'm going to give this podcast to my brother.
Congratulations to the New England Patriots, who have become the first team in the Super Bowl era to make their 10th Super Bowl appearance. A 24-20 win over the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Patriots, who were down by 10 in the fourth quarter with their tight end Rob Gronkowski out with an injury, with a concussion, and then Tom Brady led them back, a touchdown to Julian Edelman, and the Patriots defeated the Jaguars 24-20, and that was the best game. That was the best game of last week. And in the nightcap for the NFC Championship game, the Eagles and the Vikings, there was a time where the game was a 7-7 tie, and then Philadelphia went on a run, 38-7. The Eagles defeating the Vikings, Alshon Jeffrey hauling in two very long touchdowns, and we have a rematch of Super Bowl 39 in Super Bowl 52. It's time to party like it's 2004, as the Patriots and the Eagles back in the Super Bowl. Party like it's the 2004 NFL season, as the Eagles and Patriots are back in the Super Bowl. And if you want to find out who I think will win next week's Super Bowl, I think you're going to have to wait till the next edition of the Power Zone Sports Podcast. But I think that right now, Rob Gronkowski is a big question mark for the game. If he can go in the game, I think the Patriots need him to play in that game. He's going to be a big time factor for them. If he can't go, well, that's a big loss for the Patriots if he can't go. For the Eagles, Nick Foles has been playing out of his mind in the postseason in January. I wonder what Carson Wentz must be feeling. Sure, he's saying all the right things, happy to be a bystander essentially while the Eagles go to the first Super Bowl since the McNabb era. But he's got to be hurting on the inside, knowing that this was his team for much of the season, and he went down with a torn ACL and a torn MCL, and he'll be back out on the field next year. But will he be back out on that field hoisting a Lombardi Trophy? That remains to be seen. And another interesting decision, another interesting player that I see here, LeGarrette Blount, the Eagles running back this year, gets to go to the Super Bowl. Last year he was on the Patriots before that, and he's going to go to the Super Bowl against the team he used to play for. So that's going to be very interesting, very exciting, to say the least. But the Super Bowl Sunday, cannot wait. It's going to be a great time of year. Now, if you haven't figured it out by now, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, and for the Dallas Cowboys fans, this is going to be a very hard Super Bowl, because do you want the New England Patriots, a team that won their first championship at Super Bowl 36, do you want them to win their sixth Super Bowl title, which would surpass the Cowboys, who have 5 Super Bowl rings? Or do you want your hated rival, the Philadelphia Eagles, to get their first championship since 1960, or their first Super Bowl title? Imagine if they win the Super Bowl, if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, all these memes about how I came back from the year 2115, Philly still hasn't won the Super Bowl. I saw that with the Back to the Future cast in it, Doc Brown, and Christopher Lloyd, Doc Brown, and Marty McFly. That's a funny meme. But anyway, if the Eagles win, all those memes are going to have to go by the wayside. And Philadelphia, they've gone a long time without winning. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's good for your fan base when the team wins the title. It's good to erase these long droughts. It's good for the fans to erase those long droughts. So, but there's no way I'm going to say I'm rooting for the rivals to win the Super Bowl. And there's really no way I could say I'm rooting for the Patriots, the best team in the league since 2001, to win the Super Bowl either. So this is a Dallas Cowboys fan's nightmare. Help me out. Tweet me at PZN Sports. Who should I be rooting for? Should I root for anybody? I think I would just at least watch the game and see what happens here. But it'll be a good one nonetheless. It's the Super Bowl. Everybody's going to be watching it, and it's going to be fun, to say the least. Now that I've gotten the NFL out of the way, let's talk now about a much maligned league from 2001, which has announced Vince McMahon has announced will rise from the grave. 19 years after the XFL went under in 2001 after one season, the XFL is being reborn for 2020. The original XFL, 8 teams, 10-game schedule, that's being revived with a semifinal and a championship game. No word yet if the $1 million game will make a return to the XFL yet, or if the Los Angeles Extreme, the Super Bowl, the champions of the XFL with their $1 million game, will be revived in some form. And no word if Tommy Maddox will come back to quarterback the Los Angeles Extreme again. Well, last part's clearly a joke in jest here, but the XFL, honestly, I didn't really pay much attention to the XFL, but some of those XFL games are available online, and the XFL, I don't think the XFL was a horrible league, but generally it's hard for football fans to watch anything that is not the NFL, or to watch football in the springtime. The USFL, which was the first attempt at a springtime football league, went under. The XFL also went under. Generally, springtime football is not well received in the United States, and that's because the NFL, they've been the big dog in the big pond for years, for decades, and anybody who thinks they can try to compete against them is generally considered crazy. It's a wonder, will the XFL be featured on NBC again? It's 2020. NBC, for the moment, has the NFL. They have Sunday Night Football. They'll be carrying the Super Bowl as well. It's going to be interesting to see if there'll be a TV partner of this XFL league will be streamed on YouTube. It probably will be streamed on YouTube, much like the WWE Network is available on your TV, on your tablet, on your smartphone. The XFL will probably have that kind of portability as well. It would make sense anyway. And I remember the XFL. I don't remember a lot about the XFL, but they had the players who could wear their nicknames on the back of their jerseys. Mr. Rod Smart, the running back for the Las Vegas Outlaws, and how he wore "He Hate Me" on the back of his jersey. And Rod Smart had an NFL career. A cup of coffee with the Carolina Panthers as a kick returner. Tommy Maddox, the MVP of the LA Extreme, quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And those are probably the two biggest examples of successes in the NFL from the XFL. But I'm excited about the XFL. The XFL, Vince McMahon has said, will be politics-free. That's going to be hard to do in this age of social media. Apparently it's going to require all players to stand for the national anthem. But politics-free. I remember there was a time where you could watch a football game, and that was all that you could be, all you'd be able to be worried about at the time, whether or not your team would win or lose. It was a much simpler time. Now the quality of play in the XFL, that's going to be another issue. Vince McMahon The original XFL was started up, I believe, 2 years after it was announced. But this XFL is going to be announced. It's going to be announced in 2020, so it's going to be 2 years from now. Hopefully, the increase in the gap, even slightly, will lead to an increase in quality of play, increase in the coaching, increase hopefully in revenue as well for the XFL. I've long believed an NFL alternative other than the NCAA can be a viable option, and who knows if the XFL will be that option. NFL Europe, the NFL tried the World League of American Football, that went under. NFL Europe went under as well. But so far, I still believe there's room for an American Football League in the springtime other than arena football, because football is meant to be played on a 100-yard field. I believe that to be absolutely true. But the XFL, I think it's generally worth a shot to check out again. And they did have some good games. Generally, most of them were blowouts, but they did have a couple of games that went to overtime. And the XFL, the way they tried to re-rock the boat with their no coin toss, but instead a scramble for the football, it was a good idea, but it just seemed like that idea was a little bit too over the top. And there was a player injury that occurred on one of these XFL scrambles for the football, so maybe it was a little bit too much in terms of kicking or receiving and deciding who would return the ball. But I'm excited about the XFL. I think I'll give this XFL a shot. Will it compete against the NFL? Probably not. But the NFL needs an alternative, and I'll support this one I think I will support this one. If a Texas team comes to the XFL, it might be worth checking out. I don't know. It's a long time from now. But no Texas team for the XFL, I also believe, was a mistake for the league. But we'll see what Vince McMahon and the other, I'm sure soon to be, will there be owners in the XFL? Well, the other teams will decide for their league. Topic 3 on the Power Zone Sports Podcast. The Cleveland Indians have announced they are going to retire their mascot, Chief Wahoo, after next season. Cleveland Indians mascot, which has been a part of the Indians franchise for maybe 70 years, he's going to be phased out slowly after next year. Chief Wahoo will no longer be seen on the caps or the uniforms of the Cleveland Indians. It's not sure how I feel about this, because I'm not a Cleveland Indians fan. Chief Wahoo doesn't particularly bother me. I've never really understood the whole Chief Wahoo. The caricature is a bit, I've never understood the Chief Wahoo is racist. I've never understood the logo is maligning to Native Americans. I'm sorry, I don't get that. Can't we just watch a baseball game and just be entertained by the game? Going back to what I said earlier about the XFL being politics free, there was a time where you could just watch the game and that was enough. If you wanted news with your sports, you had to go to the news channels to get your news. But it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case anymore. Generally, the Indians can do what they want. If they want to remove the mascot Chief Wahoo, if they feel it's time to remove Chief Wahoo, then more power to them. But I don't know if this is going to lead to sudden increase in people buying Chief Wahoo Indians jerseys. It's hard to tell, but. And there have been some people that have said that the logo is not enough. The Indians need to change the name as well, and I disagree with that. if for nothing else, then whenever Cleveland wins, you'll see the Twitter hashtag Windians. That's going to have to disappear if they change their name to anything other than the Cleveland hashtag Windians. But so, what do you think about the Cleveland Indians? Cleveland, one of the best teams in the game. They showed a lot of heart in 2016 in their 7-game defeat to the Cubs, and for a long time it looked like Cleveland was going to take that 2016 World Series. But generally, I'm kind of neutral on the whole Chief Wahoo being removed as Indians mascot thing. I don't really have a strong opinion on it one way or the other.
Thanks for listening to the Power Zone Sports Podcast. Please like and subscribe and follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter link will be down below. And I'll see you next time in the next podcast. Bye!